So what's for supper tonight? I'm gonna grill some pork chops. And I'm gonna use some red-eyed hog seasoning. This stuff is phenomenal. I love it. I use it all the time. Burgers, chops, steaks, chicken. I use it. And then a little bit of salt. I'm gonna try these tonight too with the chops. I've never had these. The Bombay Potatoes. These already have the moisture in them. They're already constituted. They're wet. So all I have to, they're really for microwaving, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour them in my pot. It says you can boil sealed pouch in water for 5 minutes, but my pot's not big enough for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick them in the Stanley cooker and heat them up that way. Hopefully they'll be good. They are vegan, gluten-free, no preservatives, no MSG, kosher, and GMO-free. Well, we don't care about the vegan part, but everything else, that's cool. And they're good till June 30th of next year, so I like Indian food, so this will be a treat. Wanted to do a quick rundown on the new version of the Hill People Gear kit bag. So if you check out one of my prior videos, there I did an emergency wilderness loadout for my kit bag. Now Hill People Gear has come out with another version of the original kit bag, and the original, you know that because it has basically 3 pockets. There's the back pocket, which is where your weapon goes. You have the middle pocket, and then you have this front. And what they've done is they've taken that original design and they've added a couple features to it just to make it even more robust in the way you can carry gear. So the first thing you're going to notice is that they've covered the bottom with this MOLLE webbing. And what I've done is I've attached a cat tourniquet to mine. That way I can get to it really quickly. Just use some shock cord. Pull that off and then rip that out. That way if I need to self-administer a tourniquet, I can get to it when it's on my person. And since I am carrying a firearm and hatchets and knives and all this other good stuff, it's a pretty good idea to have a tourniquet. You just never know. And I've known some people who have really injured themselves pretty seriously out in the woods with axes, so a tourniquet is a great idea if you're a woodsman and you're carrying axes and hatchets and knives. Main pocket is pretty much the same as it's always been. You got the 2 stash pockets here in the front, and then you have these slick clips that hang down. This allows you to, tether things like compasses or flashlights into it. That way you're not going to lose them. And basically what I have in mind is this is kind of a dump pouch. I've got some fire starting gear, some fat wood. There's my pocket bellows, couple lighters. I've got my headlamp. So those are just kind of grab and go items. The center pocket, this thing opens all the way, and this is you're going to notice another new feature here. What they've done is they've covered this back wall with this soft, kind of fuzzy material, and it has cutouts in it that are basically MOLLE. So if you have a MOLLE pouch, you can thread a MOLLE pouch into this, or like on here, I've got a Velcro organizer that keeps my flashlight and my spare mag ready to go. And then there's also additional pouches right in here, or pockets. I've got my first aid kit and some 550 cord. These have webbing as well, and you can add more slick clips to these or tie into this. So it's It's a great idea because that way, if you have things you don't want to lose, like my keys, I don't want to lose those, I can clip those in, and now they're there and I don't have to worry about them. And then the final pocket is the one in the back. And of course that is where you would store a firearm. And I've got a Smith & Wesson M&P in there. That's the full size. Fits perfectly. And since this is such a narrow pocket, the gun really doesn't move around that much, so it pretty much stays accessible. I really don't need a holster in here. There is Velcro on this back wall that you could put a holster into, but I don't feel the need for it because the weapon sits right down there, and now it's accessible from this side because that's the side I'm going to draw from when I'm wearing it. Back of it, this is their mesh panel, which is nice because this actually helps breathe a little bit, and since it has a nice wide strap configuration, it doesn't really bind. You don't notice it when you're wearing it because it's not binding into your back. So very comfortable, even with a lot of weight in this thing. It's pretty comfortable to wear. Of course, able to adjust it, and there's a quick release buckle on this side so you can get out of it quickly if you need to. 500D Cordura. This is in the Ranger Green, which is an awesome color. I love it. But yeah, if you haven't checked these out, the time to get one is now because they've come out with this new version, the version 2, and you can get these at 5 Call Survival Supply. I'll have a link below. There's the red-eyed hog. Put a lot on. Missed a spot. There we go. There's nothing like cooking food over a campfire. I feel like I'm living like a king, you know? Try these Bombay potatoes with chickpeas. Oh, that's a really good flavor. Spicy. Not too bad though. Here's the crappy part of camping, cooking outside. You gotta clean up after yourself. And if I don't get this cleaned up, then I don't have coffee tomorrow morning, so that's not gonna happen. Sitting by the fire, chilling out. It's getting so dark out here, the camera's not picking anything up, so Gotta point my headlamp down so it'll actually record. Fire's gorgeous. Starting to cool down a little bit. Start to see my breath. It's gonna be a good night. I'm gonna sleep well. Little early morning fire prep. Fire's all burnt out from last night. Get these pine twigs going. I slept great last night. It was, it really wasn't that cold. It didn't get cold till early this morning. I woke up freezing, so I put on a couple layers and got back in the sleeping bag, and I was fine, but I didn't hear nothing. It was so quiet last night. I think the only thing I heard was the barred owl. That was it. Not even the coyotes were calling. It was really, really quiet back here, so it's a nice, peaceful evening. And it's almost 8 o'clock, and the sun is just starting to peek up. Get the fire going, we'll get the coffee on here, and then probably be hiking out this morning. Oh yeah, I've been saving this for a special occasion. Pumpkin spice latte. Perfect for October. So there were zero issues with the tent last night. I mean, no condensation whatsoever. It was perfect. I think the only issue that I have with this style of tent is, for me, it's really hard to get in and out of, because once you get outside of it, you have to get down on your knees to stand up. You can't just stand up outside of it, if that makes sense. So I think next time I camp with it, I'm going to bring a little tarp just to throw in the front out here, out in the front of the door. That way when I wake up and I get out, I can actually kneel on it, put my shoes on, stand up, because of the pole and because of this fly right here, you can't stand up outside of it as soon as you open it up. It's just way too difficult. And I'm over 6 foot. I'm 6'1.5", something like that. And it's really hard for me to get it out of this thing. I have to crawl on my knees, and that makes it really difficult. So you have just junk everywhere, but there's plenty of room for 2 people. I know I've said that before, but it doesn't look like it when you see this tent. It doesn't look like it's going to fit 2 people very well, but it does. There's just not a lot of headroom. It's not like you can, stand up in it. I can sit up in it, but when I do, my head hits the top. So I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take 550 cord and make loops, and then just tie those into that, so that when I set up my tent, I can pull those out further with the stake. And then it'll be a lot easier to set up, because there's just hardly any room with this type of stake with these loops. They're just very narrow. But if I, take some 550 cord, let's use this as an example here. I can take some 550, run it through here like this, and then have a loop, and I'll just pull it out that way and then stake it that way. I think that'll work a lot better than trying to use what they provided, which is just way too small and short. And that way I can use the longer stakes, because these are a lot easier to pull, and if the ground is frozen, you can beat them into the ground because they have a flat top, so I like to use these. Alright guys, I'm going to get out of here. Got my gear all packed up, ready to head out. Got the fire pit extinguished, and time to get home, hike back. Beautiful day. Alright, thanks for watching. As always, please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you next time on The Prepared Wanderer.